The morning started like any other at Earth Defense Force headquarters. Admiral John Bennett sipped his coffee while reviewing the daily reports. At 53, with gray hair at his temples and deep lines around his eyes, Bennett had seen everything in his 30 years of service. Or so he thought. "Sir, you need to see this." Officer Lisa Woods burst into his office, her face pale. Bennett followed her to the main control room, where dozens of officers stared at the massive screen. A strange object had appeared near the moon, seemingly out of nowhere. "What am I looking at?" Bennett asked, setting down his coffee mug. "It appeared 10 minutes ago, sir," said Carlos Diaz, the chief radar technician. "No approach trajectory, it just materialized." The object was massive, at least 3 miles long. It had a sleek, metallic appearance with glowing blue lines running along its hull. Nothing made by human hands looked anything like it. "Have we tried communicating?" Bennett asked, his voice steady despite the hammering in his chest. "Yes, sir." "Standard protocols, all frequencies." "No response yet," Woods replied. Bennett studied the object. "Keep trying, and alert the president." Within 30 minutes, the Situation Room beneath the White House filled with the nation's highest-ranking officials. President Samantha Wright, a former general herself, sat at the head of the table. "What do we know?" she asked. Bennett pulled up the latest images. The object remains in lunar orbit. Size estimate, approximately 3 miles long, half a mile wide. Material composition unknown. Energy readings off the charts. "A ship?" the president asked. "Almost certainly," replied Dr. Alan Ford, head of xenobiology, "and far beyond our technological capabilities." The Secretary of Defense leaned forward. "Are we under attack?" Before anyone could answer, Lisa Woods' voice came through the speaker. "Admiral, they're hailing us." The room fell silent. "Put it through," Bennett ordered. The large screen on the wall flickered and everyone in the room gasped. The image showed a humanoid figure with blue skin that seemed to shimmer like polished metal. It had 4 eyes, 2 large ones where human eyes would be, and 2 smaller ones above them. Its mouth was wider than a human's, with visible teeth that looked like polished diamonds. "Greetings, primitives," the creature spoke in perfect English. "I am High Commander Vexthor of the Galactic Empire. Your solar system has been annexed. Prepare for integration." President Wright stood. "This is President Samantha Wright of the United Earth Governments. We are a sovereign planet with our own laws and rights. Why have you come to our system?" The alien's upper eyes blinked independently of the lower ones. "Your status as sovereign is not recognized by the Empire. Your solar system contains resources valuable to us. Your species will serve the Empire. This is not a negotiation." Bennett stepped forward. "This is Admiral John Bennett of Earth Defense Force. We don't recognize your authority over our planet or system. We request that you leave immediately." Vexthor made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Your primitive weapons cannot harm our vessels. Your technology is thousands of years behind ours. Resistance is futile and will only result in unnecessary loss of life. We're still asking you to leave." Bennett repeated firmly. "You have 48 Earth hours to surrender control of your military assets and prepare your population for Imperial oversight. After this grace period, we will take what we need by force." The screen went black. The room erupted in panicked voices. "Silence!" President Wright's voice cut through the chaos. "This is exactly what we've trained for. Admiral Bennett, what are our options?" Bennett took a deep breath. "Militarily, limited. If their technology is as advanced as it appears, our conventional weapons may not be effective." "Nuclear options?" asked the Secretary of Defense. "Potentially ineffective and would contaminate our own system," Bennett replied. "Not to mention we don't know what kind of retaliation that might trigger." Dr. Ford cleared his throat. "If I may, Madam President, while their technology outmatches ours, our intelligence analysis of their communication suggests something interesting. The way Vexthor spoke, the terms primitives, annexed, integration, suggests they've done this before following a standard protocol." "Your point?" the president asked. "They've likely never encountered humans before. They don't know what we're capable of. Ford pulled up data on his tablet. Every species has blind spots. Their confidence suggests they've conquered many worlds, but that might mean they've grown complacent. General Maria Rodriguez, head of Special Operations, nodded slowly. If they expect us to react like other species they've encountered, we could use that assumption against them. President Wright looked around the room. We have 48 hours. I want every nation informed. This is no longer about borders or old conflicts. This is about Earth. I want our best scientists, engineers, and military minds working on this. Find their weaknesses. And if we can't? Asked the Vice President. President Wright's eyes hardened. Then we show them exactly what humans can do when backed into a corner. We didn't climb to the top of the food chain on this planet by giving up when faced with superior predators. As the meeting continued, Bennett stared at the image of the alien ship. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it wasn't the one they'd hoped for. Within hours, the news spread worldwide. Panic gripped some regions while others responded with defiance. In labs across the globe, scientists analyzed every bit of data from the alien ship. In military bases, soldiers prepared for a fight unlike any in human history. And in orbit around the moon, the massive alien vessel waited, unaware that it had just awakened the most tenacious species in the galaxy. As the 48-hour countdown ticked away, something remarkable happened on Earth. Nations that had been enemies for generations put aside their differences. Old border disputes and economic rivalries suddenly seemed petty in the face of extinction. In Washington, D.C., Admiral Bennett walked through the hastily assembled command center, where military personnel from 20 different countries worked side by side. Screens displayed defense systems worldwide, all now linked to a single purpose. Status update, Bennett asked as he approached the science division. Dr. Kelly Martinez looked up from her computer. Dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't slept since the alien arrival. Her desk was covered with empty coffee cups and half-eaten sandwiches. We've been analyzing the energy readings from their ship, she said, pushing her glasses up. Look at this pattern. Bennett leaned in to study. The screen. Colorful waves pulsed across it, showing energy readings from the alien vessel. Their shields operate on principles we can actually exploit, Martinez explained, pointing to specific patterns. They use a frequency modulation that suggests they're vulnerable to certain types of electromagnetic interference. If we can generate the right counter-frequency, we could disrupt their systems, Bennett finished. Exactly, Martinez nodded excitedly. We're already modifying our satellite network to generate these counter-frequencies. It won't destroy their ships, but it might level the playing field. Bennett squeezed her shoulder. Keep at it. I have another meeting. In another part of the complex. Diplomat Nancy Collins sat with representatives from every major nation. At 55, Collins had spent her career preventing wars, not planning for them. Yet here she was, drafting humanity's most important document. We need to be clear and direct, she told the group. The Empire needs to understand that Earth is not like other planets they've conquered. The Russian ambassador nodded. We must show strength, no compromise, but not aggression, added the Chinese representative. We cannot appear to be the aggressors. Collins typed as they spoke, crafting what would become known as Earth's Declaration. The document outlined humanity's right to self-determination and proclaimed the entire Sol system as sovereign territory. Meanwhile, in manufacturing plants around the world, workers operated at full capacity. Weapons systems were modified according to Dr. Martinez's specifications. Satellites were reprogrammed. Every available resource was directed toward defense. In homes across the globe, families prepared for the unknown. Some prayed. Some stocked supplies. Others simply held their loved ones close. Television and internet channels broadcast constant updates, mixing facts with speculation. We don't know what will happen, a news anchor in London reported solemnly. But we know humanity stands together for the first time in our history. At the 36-hour mark, President Wright called a meeting with her closest advisors. Are we ready? She asked. General Rodriguez shook her head. Not completely. We need more time. Time is the one thing we don't have, Bennett said, but we've made progress. Dr. Martinez's team has found potential weaknesses in their shield technology. And our diplomatic response? Wright asked Collins. Collins handed her a tablet. The declaration is ready, approved by all United Nations members. Wright read it silently, then nodded. It's time to give our answer. As the 48-hour deadline approached, Earth prepared to broadcast its response. Television stations worldwide carried the feed. Internet servers strained under the load as billions watched. President Wright stood before a simple podium. Behind her hung the flags of every nation. She wore a plain blue suit. No medals, no extravagance. Just a human being representing her species. People of Earth, she began, for all of human history, we have looked to the stars and wondered if we were alone. Now we have our answer. But first contact has come not with a hand of friendship, but with demands of surrender. The camera zoomed in on her face, showing determination in her eyes. To the Galactic Empire and High Commander Vex Thor, Earth has received your demands. We have considered them carefully. This is our response. She took a breath. Earth declares itself and the entire Sol system off limits to Imperial vessels. We will defend our sovereignty with all available means. We are not your subjects. We are humanity, diverse, resilient, and free. Throughout our history, we have faced extinction-level threats, from ice ages to plagues, from world wars to environmental collapse. Each time we have adapted and survived. Her voice grew stronger. We are willing to establish peaceful relations with the Galactic Empire as equals. We are willing to trade, to share knowledge, to become part of a larger galactic community. But we will not be conquered. We will not be subjugated. We will not surrender our home. She looked directly into the camera. You have given us 48 hours to surrender. We give you 24 hours to withdraw from our system. This is not a negotiation. The broadcast ended. Across Earth, people held their breath. The response came within minutes. Commander Vex Thor's face appeared on screens worldwide. Your declaration is meaningless, he said, his 4 eyes narrowed. No species has successfully resisted the Empire. Your defiance is noted and will be punished. Prepare to be subjugated. The alien's image disappeared. For a moment, there was silence in command centers across the globe. Then the alarm sounded. New contacts, shouted Officer Diaz. 3 more Imperial vessels just appeared near Mars. On the main screen, 3 massive ships, each as large as the first, materialized seemingly from nowhere. They moved into formation, creating a blockade between Earth and Mars. Bennett's communicator buzzed. It was Dr. Martinez. Tell me you have good news, he said. Our modifications are at 60% completion, she replied, her voice tense. We need more time. Bennett looked at the screen showing the 4 Imperial vessels. I'm not sure time is something we have any more, he said quietly. President Wright joined him at the command console. They're called our bluff, she said. No, Bennett replied, his jaw set firm. They've accepted our challenge. Across Earth, defense systems went to maximum readiness. Soldiers said goodbye to families, pilots climbed into cockpits, and billions of humans looked to the sky, wondering if this was the beginning of the end or the start of humanity's greatest chapter. The Imperial ships moved toward Earth like massive predators. Their hulls gleamed in the sunlight as they passed the orbit of Mars, steadily advancing toward humanity's home planet. In Earth orbit, Captain Frank Miller sat at the controls of the newly modified spacecraft Defender. At 39, Miller had spent 15 years piloting experimental aircraft, but nothing had prepared him for this mission. His hands were steady on the controls, but his mouth felt dry. All systems check complete, said Engineer Olivia Garcia from her station. Experimental shields at 100%. Miller nodded. Weapons status? The modified electromagnetic pulse generators are online, replied Lieutenant Steve Harmon. But we've never tested them against alien technology, sir. Well, we're about to, Miller said with a grim smile. The Defender was just one of 50 spacecraft now orbiting Earth. They were a mixture of military vessels and converted civilian ships, hastily equipped with Dr. Martinez's new technology. Compared to the massive Imperial ships, they looked like insects facing dragons. Meanwhile, on the lunar surface, Admiral Bennett oversaw the final preparations at the secret moon base Alpha. Few people on Earth even knew the base existed before, today. Now it was humanity's hidden card. "Activate the defense grid," Bennett ordered. Around him, technicians worked at their stations, bringing online a network of installations hidden across the solar system, on Mars, beneath the surface of the moon, and in thousands of satellites orbiting Earth, devices powered up simultaneously. Dr. Martinez stood beside Bennett, her eyes fixed on the data streams. "Energy signatures are masked," she reported. "They won't detect our systems until they're activated." Bennett nodded. "Let them get closer." On the main Imperial vessel, Commander Vexthor watched Earth grow larger on the view screen. His second-in-command, Subcommander Zrel, approached. "The primitive vessels are in defensive formation," Zrel reported. "They appear to have modified their ships, but our scans detect nothing that could threaten us." Vexthor's upper eyes blinked slowly. "They are more organized than most species we encounter at this development stage, but the outcome remains certain." "Shall I begin targeting their major cities?" Zrel asked. "Yes," Vexthor replied. "A demonstration of our power will accelerate their surrender." As the Imperial ships moved into attack position, they activated their weapons systems. Energy began to build in their massive cannons. Weapons, capable of devastating entire continents with a single blast. In lunar orbit, Bennett watched the power readings spike on the alien ships. "They're preparing to fire," he said. "Activate countermeasures now." Dr. Martinez pressed a series of commands on her console. Initiating disruption field. Across the solar system, the hidden installations activated simultaneously, creating an invisible energy field that spread outward in waves. The field wasn't designed to stop the Imperial weapons, but to disrupt their targeting systems. On the Imperial flagship, alarms suddenly blared. "What is happening?" demanded Vexthor as his ship's targeting computers began showing errors. "Unknown energy pattern detected," Zrel reported, his four eyes widening. "It's interfering with our targeting matrix. We cannot lock onto the planetary surface." Vexthor slammed his fist on the command console. "Impossible. Their technology is too primitive." "The interference is coming from multiple sources," Zrel said. "Moon, Mars, and thousands of points in Earth orbit." On the Defender, Captain Miller received the signal they'd been waiting for. "All ships, commence attack pattern Alpha," he ordered. The 50 Earth vessels broke formation, moving with surprising speed toward the much larger Imperial ships. Instead of concentrating their attack, they spread out, approaching from multiple angles. "They're attacking?" Vexthor asked in disbelief. "Target those ships and destroy them." The Imperial vessels fired their secondary weapons, but the Earth ships moved in unpredictable patterns, making them difficult targets. Several blasts hit their marks, instantly destroying 3 Earth vessels in brilliant explosions, but the remaining ships pressed on. When they came within range, they released their payload, not conventional weapons, but devices designed by Dr. Martinez that projected targeted electromagnetic pulses calibrated to the exact frequency of the Imperial shields. The Imperial ship's systems began failing. Shield strength dropped unexpectedly. Communications became garbled. "What is this?" Vexthor demanded as his ship's lights flickered. "How are they doing this?" Zrel worked frantically at his console. "They're using our own shield frequency against us. The primitives have adapted our technology." Bennett watched from the moon base as the Earth ships darted around the Imperial vessels, firing their disruptors at key points. "It's working," he said, allowing himself a small smile. But the Empire didn't become the dominant force in the galaxy by being easily defeated. The Imperial flagship systems quickly began adapting to the human attacks. Its shields flickered, then stabilized at a new frequency. "They're adapting," Dr. Martinez warned. "As we expected." Bennett nodded. Initiate Phase 2. On Earth, President Wright stood in the main command center, surrounded by military and civilian leaders from around the world. Everyone watched the battle unfolding in space with tense expressions. The first phase worked, reported General Rodriguez. But the Imperial ships are recovering. Wright's expression remained determined. Proceed with the second phase. The largest Imperial ship, Vexthor's flagship, fired its main weapon at Earth. The energy beam, powerful enough to crack the planet's crust, shot toward the atmosphere. Everyone on Earth held their breath. But when the blast struck Earth's atmosphere, something unexpected happened. Instead of hitting the surface, the energy dissipated, spreading across the sky in a dazzling aurora that circled the globe. In the hours before the battle, thousands of satellites had been repositioned to form a dispersal grid, a technology developed in secret by scientists from 5 nations. The grid couldn't stop the alien weapon, but it could redirect and disperse its energy. Impossible! Vexthor shouted, standing from his command chair. Fire again, full power! The flagship fired once more with the same result. The beam hit the atmosphere and spread harmlessly across the sky in rivers of light. In the Defender, Captain Miller watched with relief as Earth survived the attack. Phase 2 successful, he reported. Proceeding to Phase 3. Lieutenant Harmon looked at him with newfound hope. We might actually win this. Miller's expression remained serious. The battle's just starting. They've shown us what they can do. Now we show them what humans are capable of when defending their home. As if hearing his words, the Imperial ships began moving into a new formation, preparing for an all-out assault. Bennett contacted all Earth forces. All units prepare for Phase 3. Remember, we don't need to destroy them. We just need to show them that conquering Earth will cost too much. Around him, the lunar base hummed with energy as they prepared to unveil humanity's next surprise for the would-be conquerors. Now, ordered Admiral Bennett, his voice calm but firm. Across Earth's orbit, a new wave of vessels launched. Unlike the military ships that had engaged in the first assault, these were smaller, faster, and unmanned. Hundreds of them shot towards the Imperial vessels like a swarm of angry bees. Inside the main command center on Earth, President Wright watched the tactical display with General Rodriguez at her side. Drone swarm deployed, Rodriguez reported, each carrying a specialized disruptor designed by Dr. Martinez. Wright nodded. And the stealth team? Rodriguez checked another screen. In position, waiting for the drones to create enough distraction. The, Imperial ships, still recovering from the surprise of Earth's defensive capabilities, now faced a new and unexpected threat. Their weapons, designed to target large vessels, struggled to lock onto the small, fast-moving drones. On the flagship, Commander Vexthor watched with growing frustration as the tactical display showed hundreds of small objects surrounding his fleet. What are these devices? He demanded. Sub-Commander Zrel studied the readings. Small unmanned craft, minimal power signatures. They appear to be sacrifice vessels. Vexthor's eyes narrowed. Destroy them. All weapons. The Imperial ships fired in all directions, their energy weapons creating a spectacular light show in space. Some drones exploded, but most continued their approach, programmed with evasive patterns based on the Empire's previous firing solutions. When the drones reached their targets, they didn't explode as Vexthor expected. Instead, each attached to the hull of an Imperial ship and activated its payload, specialized disruptors that sent targeted energy pulses directly into the ship's systems. Alarms blared across the Imperial fleet as systems began failing in sequence. Communications arrays, sensors, and weapon targeting. These humans, Vexthor said to Zrel, his voice a mixture of anger and reluctant admiration. They fight unlike any species we've encountered. Their tactics are unpredictable. Zrel nodded, 4 eyes blinking rapidly as he tried to restore failing systems. They don't attack with brute force as most primitive species do. They target vulnerabilities with precision. They should have no knowledge of our systems, Vexthor growled. How are they doing this? While the Imperial fleet was distracted by the drone swarm, a small Earth vessel approached the flagship from behind. Unlike the other Earth ships, this one had been equipped with experimental cloaking technology. Not perfect, but effective enough against distracted sensors. Inside the stealth ship, Major Susan Baker checked her team's equipment one final time. At 41, Baker had led special operations missions across Earth, but nothing comparable to boarding an alien spacecraft. "Final checks," she ordered. The 6 soldiers with her nodded, each focusing on their specialized gear. Beside her, programmer Eric Nelson adjusted his portable computer interface. "I still can't believe we're doing this," he said, his voice betraying a mixture of fear and excitement. Baker gave him a reassuring look. "You've studied their transmission patterns. You're the best person to access their systems." "In theory," Eric said. "But this is like bringing a stone axe to hack a quantum computer." "Sometimes the simplest tools work when fancy ones fail," Baker replied. "Remember, we just need 10 minutes inside their network." Their ship attached to the hull of the Imperial flagship near what they believed was an access port. Using tools designed based on the aliens' technology, they cut through the outer hull. Inside the Imperial vessel, most of the crew was focused on the drone attack and failing systems. No one noticed the small breach near a secondary maintenance corridor. Baker's team moved through the massive ship, following the route they'd planned based on intercepted communications. The corridors were huge, designed for beings larger than humans, with strange markings and pulsing lights along the walls. The team used small devices to create localized disruptions in the ship's internal sensors. They encountered 2 alien crew members using stun weapons to silently incapacitate them. Finally, they reached their target, a secondary systems hub where Eric could access the Imperial network. "This is it," he said, studying the alien interface. He connected his specialized tablet to what looked like a data port. "I'm in," he announced as alien symbols began flooding his screen. Their systems are advanced but fundamentally still computer code. Patterns are patterns, no matter who designed them. His fingers flew across the interface as he worked to deploy the virus he'd created. The virus wasn't designed to destroy. That would be detected too quickly. Instead, it was meant to create subtle errors that would multiply throughout the system, causing cascading failures in weapons and shields while leaving life support and basic functions intact. "How much longer?" Baker asked, keeping watch at the door. 3 more minutes, Eric replied, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool air. On the bridge, Vexthor was focused on repelling the drone swarm when more alarms sounded. "What now?" he demanded. "Internal sensors detect intruders," a security officer reported. "Section 42, near the auxiliary systems hub." Vexthor's eyes widened. "Impossible! They boarded us? Send security teams immediately." But it was already too late. Eric finished uploading his virus, disconnected his device, and nodded to Baker. "It's done. In about 30 seconds, their weapons and shields will start failing." "Move out," Baker ordered. The team retreated the way they had come, moving quickly through the corridors. Throughout the Imperial fleet, systems began failing in ways the alien crews couldn't understand or fix quickly. Weapons powered down. Shield generators overheated. Navigation systems showed false readings. "This is impossible," Vexthor raged as his mighty warship drifted powerless. "How could primitives do this?" In the Earth Command Center, cheers erupted as data showed the Imperial ships losing power. The drone swarm continued its disruptive attack, while Baker's team successfully returned to their stealth vessel and detached from the flagship. President Wright remained calm, though her eyes showed relief. "Don't celebrate yet," she cautioned. "This is just the beginning." General Rodriguez nodded in agreement. "They're disabled, not destroyed, and the Empire likely has more ships." "We don't need to destroy them," Wright replied. "We just need to show them that Earth isn't worth the cost." As the Imperial ships drifted powerless and vulnerable, Earth's military vessels surrounded them in a defensive formation. The message was clear. Earth could have destroyed the alien ships but chose not to. Admiral Bennett contacted the command center from the moonbase. "Phase 3 successful, Madam President. The Imperial fleet is neutralized. What are your orders?" Wright straightened her shoulders. "Open a channel to Commander Vexthor. It's time to negotiate." In his damaged flagship, Vexthor stared at the view screen as President Wright's face appeared. "Commander," she said, "as you can see, we have disabled your fleet. We could destroy your ships, but that's not our goal. We're offering you a choice. Recognize Earth's sovereignty and establish peaceful relations or face continued resistance. The decision is yours." Vexthor's expression was unreadable as he considered the unexpected situation. For the first time, in his long career, he faced a choice the Empire had never had to make before: retreat or negotiate as equals with a technologically inferior species. 3 days after the battle, a meeting unlike any in human history took place. The United Nations headquarters in New York had been chosen as the location. Commander Vexthor and 2 Imperial representatives stood on one side of the large table. Admiral Bennett, President Wright, and key Earth leaders sat on the other. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the tense faces of both humans and aliens. Armed guards stood at every entrance, though everyone knew that if either side wanted violence, no amount of security would matter. Admiral Bennett studied Vexthor's face. In person, the alien commander was even more imposing, nearly 7 feet tall with skin that shifted colors slightly as he moved. "Your species has earned a unique position," Vexthor began, his voice deep and resonant. "The Empire has conquered thousands of worlds across dozens of galaxies, yet none have resisted as you have." President Wright leaned forward. "We don't seek conflict with the Empire, but we will not surrender our freedom." Vexthor's upper eyes blinked slowly. "The concept of freedom is unusual to us. In the Empire, each species serves a purpose within the greater whole." "Humans don't work that way," Bennett replied. "Our differences, our independence, these are our strengths, not weaknesses." The alien commander was silent for a moment, considering. "Your tactics during the battle were unexpected. Your willingness to adapt our technology, your unpredictable strategies. Most primitive species rely on brute force and are easily defeated." Wright smiled slightly. "Humans are unique in the universe, Commander. We spent millennia fighting among ourselves before achieving unity. We've developed warfare to an art form. Peace is our preference, but conflict is our expertise." One of the Imperial representatives, a tall female with lighter blue skin, spoke up. "The Imperial Council has reviewed the battle data. Your resistance caused minimal casualties but maximum disruption. It was impressive." "We didn't want to destroy your ships," Bennett explained. "We just wanted to show you that conquering Earth would cost too much, even for the Empire." Vexthor nodded slowly. A logical approach, and effective. He placed a device on the table. It projected a holographic document that hovered in the air. "The Empire proposes these terms." The humans leaned forward to study the glowing text. It outlined a treaty recognizing Earth's sovereignty and establishing trade relations between Earth and the Galactic Empire. "This is unprecedented," the female Imperial representative said. "No world has ever received such status without full integration into the Empire." Wright read the document carefully. "This allows Earth ships free passage through Imperial space?" "With proper identification," Vexthor confirmed, "and Earth will have observer status in the Imperial Council." Bennett raised an eyebrow. "And what does the Empire get in return?" "Knowledge," Vexthor said simply. "Your species thinks differently than any we have encountered. Your adaptability, your creativity, these are valuable to us." The negotiations continued for hours, with both sides making adjustments to the agreement. By sunset, a treaty had been signed, the first of its kind in the Empire's long history. 3 months later, Earth welcomed ambassadors from across the galaxy. The United Nations had been expanded to include a new wing specifically designed for interstellar diplomacy. Ships from dozens of alien worlds orbited Earth, bringing dignitaries and curious visitors. In her office overlooking the New York skyline, President Wright prepared for her address to the United Nations. Admiral Bennett stood by the window, watching an alien shuttle descend toward the landing pad. "Did you ever imagine this?" Wright asked, adjusting her jacket. "Just 3 months ago we were facing extinction." Bennett shook his head. "I hoped we would survive. I never dreamed we'd thrive. Wright picked up her speech notes. The Galactic Empire still doesn't fully understand us. That's our advantage, Bennett replied with a small smile. They never will. An hour later, President Wright addressed the expanded United Nations, with representatives from Earth and beyond. Today marks humanity's true entry onto the galactic stage, she said, her voice carrying across the packed chamber. Not as subjects, but as equals. Our declaration, that Earth and the Sol system are sovereign territory, is now recognized throughout the galaxy. In the furthest reaches of the Empire, news spread of the small blue planet that had stood against the mighty Imperial fleet and won. A planet that had issued a simple but unprecedented declaration: no Galactic Empire ships allowed. The message was clear throughout the stars. Humanity would not be conquered. Earth would forge its own destiny among the vast civilizations of the galaxy, and the universe would never be the same again. The end.